Welcome, everyone. Today, Benzo Warrior Community is excited to welcome Angie Peacock to speak to our Zoom Roundtable. Angie will present for about 40 minutes, and then we'll entertain our questions afterwards. Her talk is called Rebuilding a Life After Benzodiazepines and Other Psych Meds. We are so lucky that Angie's willing to share all of her great experience with us and to share her life post-recovery. Angie Peacock, MSW, served in the U.S. Army for 7 years as a communications specialist with one deployment to Iraq. After a series of traumas, she was prescribed over 40 medications for the treatment of her disorders. She eventually discontinued all medications, let go of her identity as a patient, regained most of her health, and rebuilt an amazing life. Angie's story of withdrawal and recovery appears in the new film Medicating Normal. After the film was released, she led the outreach effort, engaging over 180 audiences during community screenings and panel discussions all over the world. Angie now serves as a psychiatric drug withdrawal consultant and a healing coach. She provides education and support to individuals, families, and organizations interested in harm reduction and the healing from deprescribing of psychiatric drugs. Some of her past roles in the community include board member with World Benzodiazepine Awareness Day, veteran liaison with the Benzodiazepine Information Coalition, team member at the Inner Compass Initiative, and outreach for Medicating Normal, the film. Welcome, Angie, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Barb and Lisa, for having this, and I'm so excited to talk to your group. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you because I have a little presentation. Let's do this. All right, so can you see my screen perfectly? There's no obstructions? Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to keep this talk to about 40 minutes, but and we're going to open it for questions at the end. So it's rebuilding a life after benzo and other psychiatric drugs. Here is my disclaimer. All right, so my story is pretty severe. I'm one of the outliers, like one of the more extreme examples of polypharmacy, one of the persons that is kindled, that's had multiple cold turkey withdrawals, which is not the correct way to do it. So I don't want you to be afraid by my experience. I want to stand as a beacon of hope for you, that even someone that is severe, even some of the severe stories that you read within the community, they too will heal. So saying that, I want you to also stay in your own experience. So if I say something that triggers you, it's okay. Take a deep breath, come back, remember that you are in your body with your genes, with your experience. I'm very careful with my language, and I really do try not to trigger anyone. So I'll do my best. Another part of the disclaimer is take what makes sense to you and leave the rest. I am not here to, make you believe something that's not within your realm of understanding or anything like that. If something sounds like it relates, take it. If it doesn't, leave it go. No big deal. And also my trigger warnings, I will discuss my withdrawal experience. Some of it will be severe, but I won't get incredible detail. I might say the word suicide. I can't possibly know everyone's triggers. We're all triggered by so many things. I know I was triggered by coffee cups, so it could be anything. But I promise you that if you hang on till the end, you will be inspired. You will have more hope than you came in with. And that is my promise to you. Also, let me think, what else? Yeah, let's just let this be an opportunity to kind of think about this experience on a bigger level. Think about it as a chance to get some new ideas, maybe re-examine your own beliefs, take it from there. All right, so this is kind of what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk about my story, kind of a quick version for people that don't know me. I'm going to talk about my concept called suffering well. I'm going to talk about how I re-examined my own belief systems, how I figured out who I am again. Identity, it's a big thing in withdrawal. Purpose, what should I do with this experience? How do I go forward with meaning? Healing from some of the trauma. I know trauma is a huge topic that's usually brought up within the community, either from this experience or what led you to this experience or coming out of it. And then I'm going to touch on holistic health, and I'll leave you with some hope, some inspiration, and a call to action. All right, so here's my case study. It's a horrible picture of me, but that's what I looked like in Iraq about 20 years ago, right in the middle of my traumas. Basically, long story short, I deployed to Iraq. I had been sexually assaulted about 2 years prior to that. And then when I went to war, as they say, my wheels were greased. I already had this trauma, but there's enough trauma in one day in Iraq. That's all you need, right? So I was there for 6 months. I was given lots of antibiotics, birth control, multiple vaccines. I have no opinion on any of those, but at the time, I really think it led to me getting extremely ill environmentally, and mentally and emotionally. It was just too much trauma, too much physical toxins I was putting in my body because I had to, too much antibiotics. It was all like the perfect storm. And I know each one of you probably had that perfect storm within your own life. It could be a relationship or a job or leaving home for college or a bunch of birth control or try this antidepressant, try that. We all have that common shared experience. So that was mine. That's how this all started for me. My symptoms that I started getting were panic, anxiety, fear, hypervigilance. I was scared of everything. Of course I was in a war zone. I started to experience a little agoraphobia, believe it or not. And that led me to go to psychiatry and say, hey, I'm struggling. I need some help. And the very first drug I was prescribed was clonazepam right out of the war zone. Some of the treatment I tried was EFT, EMDR, CBT, CPT, biofeedback, prolonged exposure. I read about 300 self-help books trying to fix myself. I attended 12-step groups. I went to church, different churches. I tried all kinds of stuff, and I never knew it was the meds. I never realized, oh my God, I think these meds are keeping my post-traumatic stress chronic and severe. I can't put anything away. I don't seem to be able to resolve anything. I just felt like I was spinning my wheels for many years. So this is my medication list for 13 years. I'm sure some of you are probably on some of these right now. Some of you have tapered off some of you tried some. They threw hormones at me. It was, here's a painkiller. Then I would develop frequent urination. So here's a pill for urination. Now I'm getting migraines and stomach problems and shortness of breath. Here's a albuterol inhaler because of your air hunger, which I didn't know. So that extreme polypharmacy really did set me up for long-term protracted withdrawal. Not to scare you, everybody's different. So I know some people have taken more meds than me and they're healed within a year. So just to give you an idea, this is kind of my experience. And all of this happened in 13 years. Then I started waking up. And I will tell you, it sort of started with, why am I on so many meds and I don't feel good? Shouldn't I be feeling great? Or why don't I have sexual feelings anymore? Where did those go? I'm 26. Like, shouldn't I be socializing and going on dates and, having friends and going on concerts? And it was like my world got smaller and smaller and smaller through those years. I assumed that was because I was disabled. I assumed that's because I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I had this mental illness. So basically my entire life revolved around going to doctors, going to Walgreens to pick up medications, filling those prescription containers, making therapy appointments, going to therapy once a week. I was genuinely looking for a cure. I was genuinely looking for healing. And I know all of you are in the same boat. It was like, that's what led us here, right? You were looking for genuine hope, genuine support, looking for an answer, looking for healing. I was just the same as you. So I should say one more thing. It was basically an incredible series of events where I had met a doctor who, I was on 18 drugs at the same time at this point in time. It was in 2006. And I remember the first appointment, he said, I'm a psychiatrist who doesn't believe in psychiatry. And I was like, what does that mean? It kind of stuck with me that he said that. And he goes, well, who put you on all these meds? And I was like, well, you guys did. One doctor adds one and then the next one doesn't say anything. And next thing I know, I'm on 18. And he said, well, if I get you a bed at the psych ward tonight, will you check in and I'll take you off a bunch of these? And I was like, sure. So he took me off 10 overnight, cold turkey. I was about 26 years old. It was extremely scary. I hallucinated in the hospital. I recently found a note from that time, like a journal entry, and I was really scared. But again, probably similar to all of you, I didn't realize it was the meds. I really thought, like, I'm losing it. I'm really sick. I'm never coming back from this. I remember being very angry for about 45 days, 60 days, something like that. It was not a fun experience, but in a way he did help me because he recognized, like, you're on this dangerous combination, and that led to 10 more years of the healing from that withdrawal, and then to continue like a harm reduction approach. Harm reduction means, like, just, can I take less? It was never really a goal of mine to come off of everything, but that's just kind of how it happened. So that waking up process, it took me about 10 years to really figure out, I just want to take less meds. Then that evolved to, I want to know who I am under the meds. That evolved to, I got to get off this stuff. Like, I don't feel good, and I know each of us has our own unfolding, how that goes. But basically that last drug, I had tapered Effexor for about 2 years. I couldn't get off of it. They switched me to Cymbalta. I tapered Cymbalta for 2.5 years, counting all the beads. Then I had 2 benzos left. I had clonazepam, 2 milligrams a day, and 1 milligram of Ativan as needed. Like whenever, I'd take like 0.5 or something in the middle. I never craved it. I never ran out early. I knew all the signs of addiction. I was not displaying any of them. I didn't feel euphoria, nothing. I always thought like, this is just like Prozac or Tic Tac. Like I never felt it like it was doing anything. So when I thought like, I just want to get off of this, I didn't expect a withdrawal. I didn't know about benzo withdrawal. I had no idea. So long story short, I got down to the last 2 benzos. I switched doctors because the old doctor kept trying to put me on more meds, probably to medicate the Cymbalta withdrawal. And I went to a new doctor and I put both pill containers on the table and I said, I want to get off of this shit. Excuse my language. And he said, well, you can't do it overnight. Let's do one at a time. Which one do you want to take? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like the Ativan works better. So then he said, okay. So he cold switched me from 2 milligrams of Klonopin to 3 milligrams of Ativan, which is kind of opposite. So there was another mistake. So that's the last medicine I was on, was 3 milligrams of Ativan per day. I tapered down to about 1 milligram. And that's when I started getting really bad symptoms. And I think at that point I had cut 0.25 every 6 weeks, which is wrong. It wasn't a hyperbolic taper. It was more of a linear taper. And then that's when all hell broke loose on day 6 of cold turkey. It was not good. I definitely do not recommend cold turkey for anyone, especially from a benzo. My symptoms were severe and extreme very quickly. Here is some, you can look away if anything scares you, I'm so sorry, but this is my withdrawal experience. I had facial swelling, I had numb hands, I had numb fingers, I had burning skin, you name it, zaps in my face, zaps in my head. I could feel my brain wiggling, like inner restlessness, terror, aggression, irritability. For 3 years, was like the hardest part was the first year for sure. But the first 3 years was definitely inner akathisia, like you wouldn't believe. That's when I started trying to figure out what is wrong with me. And I will tell you, I could barely form a sentence. I couldn't look at Facebook. I didn't find Facebook groups for 4 months because I could not even look at a screen to read a comment. People's faces scared me. The whole Facebook thing everything was scary. Everything. The whole world was like a horror show. But I finally found the groups. I've somehow stumbled on Robert Whitaker's book, Anatomy. I can't ever say it fast. Anatomy of an Epidemic. I highly recommend anybody out there read that book, or what I did was audiobook, and I couldn't even pay attention to half the book, and I had to keep rewinding it. But basically what happened was, when I listened to that book in the middle of my inner akathisia and maybe like 8 months off, it was like a lightning bolt went through me. It was, oh my God, Angie, you are not mentally ill the way that you think you are. These meds made you mentally ill. And you got to heal from this. And I'm not really sure how this is going to go. Either I'm going to heal from this or I'm going to die from it. And I'm just not going to hurt myself no matter what. If you hurt yourself, they're going to talk about you like she was just a mentally ill, disabled veteran. She was just messed up from the war. And I knew that's not what was happening to me. I knew it was the drugs. I knew that 6 months prior, I was running 5K races. I was doing Tough Mudder. I was just a statistics tutor at my university that was a med school. And now my life is dismantled and I can't even stand up to take a shower. I knew that it was a drug. It was no doubt in my mind. Thank God for the groups like Benzo Warrior Community, because when I found these groups and I read everybody experiencing the same thing as me, I was like, oh my God, that's what this is. That's what they have missed. I was not mentally ill in the first place. I'll talk about that later, but it definitely was like a stages of grief. At first I was like, no way can a drug do this. And then I got angry. Wait a minute, they did this to me. I can't believe this. I want to tell everybody. I want to talk to my doctor and teach him, and I'm going to bring him journal articles, and I'm going to tell my family. And But then I was like, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my benefits from my college money. I'm going to lose my housing. I'm going to be homeless. I can't live like this. Like, what am I going to do here? Then there's sort of a bargaining, like, okay, well, maybe this might take some time. Maybe it'll be 6 months. I remember thinking that I'll be healed in 6 months. I'm glad I thought that. I'm really glad looking back that I thought that. I thought, okay, I can do this for 6 months if that's what I have to do. Let's just get it over with. And there's even that, if I live through this, I'll give back, which I am. But that was definitely not like, I don't think I thought like that, but there's a bargaining, like, come on, if you help me through this, or if I can get through this, I'll be fine. And all that inner turmoil that I was feeling. Then there's some depression, like, oh my God, I cannot go on. This is like, I don't want to experience this. There's no way out. Nobody understands me. Nobody's going to get me through it. I remember thinking very clearly, there's no amount of money. There's no expert. There's no doctor. There's no magic pill. There's no therapy that I didn't try. I have knocked down every door that there was. And this was the one thing. There's no way through this. There's no way out of this, but through it. And that's kind of where my acceptance came. Like, okay, this happened. It should never have happened. It happened to me. There's no reason why it happened. I didn't bring it on myself, but I am still here. I am. It's with me, and I have to get through it, and there's no other way around it. So this is where I talk about suffering well. I took this term. There's a veterans agency called, oh gosh, I can't remember the name, but the guy wrote a book called Struggle Well, and he was talking about leadership. Like, all good leaders, they go through struggle, and it's just part of like leadership development, and you get through it, and it makes you a better leader. So I'm applying his term, but twisting a little bit for our community, like a suffering well. And what I say about that is, first of all, there's no right way to do withdrawal, or, wrong way is just like, don't cold turkey kind of thing. But even if you do, you'll still heal. It's just harder. But there's no really, like, I guess there's different camps in the withdrawal community. Like, you can just sit around and wait for healing to happen to you, or you could do a bunch of things, and you're going to waste lots of thousands of dollars in money for supplements and functional medicine doctors. People do all kinds of things to try to get through this. There's really no right way. I just think of it like, it's kind of a mindset. Like, this is definitely one of the more mental things that will ever happen to you. It's from day to day, like struggling to not buy into all the thoughts that your withdrawal brain is telling you. It's like, how do I live through this horrific experience with no understanding, with no justice to where I can get closure from this? Like, my doctors don't even get it. My family's not going to understand it. So it's like, you're going to suffer. And how do I do that well, if possible? And like I said, from day to day, even if you just breathe and stay alive, that's enough. That's enough. I think it's just an acceptance. Like, I am suffering. I'm going to do it as best as I can. I'm going to get through this. I might get some gifts out of it. It's looking down the tunnel and seeing, like, other thousands of people have done this before me. They're healed. You can look at Angie, or look at Lisa, look at Barb, look at all of us in the community that have done it before you. We're all pulling you along. We're all throwing you a hope rope. Like, come on, it's going to be okay. Just keep going. Just keeping your eyes on the prize. Like, I have to get through this. It happened to me. I don't like it, but here I am. So with that, I say a few things. Suffering is sure. How will you get through it? Now, obviously, suffering is on a degree from day to day. You can have windows and waves. You can have an extreme experience where you have akathisia. You could have minimal symptoms that are just like a sleep disturbance, or a little bit of dissociation, or a little bit of anxiety. You can be sure you will have symptoms. How will you get through it? My next question is, what will you do at this time? Like I said, I don't want you to think I'm pressuring you or telling you have to do something important or big or anything. It could be small, like, I have a new appreciation for nature, or I listened to 15 audiobooks in a year while I was in withdrawal, and I learned some really valuable things, or I caught up on my crochet, or I just learned how to breathe. There will be things that come out of this, even small. So think about that. Maybe, like, what in your life have you done with this time while you've been suffering? Has it improved your relationships? Is there anything in there that you can do just for yourself, even just journaling, anything? All right. And now I always say this: you cannot do anything until you can, oops, and not a moment sooner. So I always want to say that with, don't ever think that I'm pushing you or pressuring you. are telling you you got to do some big things. You don't. We all cope in our own way. You do what you have to do, what feels good to you. That is all I ask. It doesn't have to be big. It can literally be breathing and staying alive. That's enough. Let's see. Okay. So throughout my healing process, I also had to re-examine my belief systems. I thought about my diagnoses, of which were many: panic disorder with agoraphobia, major depression. I even got a bipolar diagnosis, which I think is hilarious. Post-traumatic stress disorder, insomnia. Did I say them all? Major depression. I had all kinds of them. It seemed like generalized anxiety disorder was my last diagnosis. I thought that was hilarious. Like, oh, great. I got like 8 diagnoses. They don't do anything for me. All they have done is thrown meds at me, and none of them have worked, or they've made me worse, or they only work temporarily. I still feel like crap. So through this time, I definitely re-examined everything that I thought I believed about everything, because you have lots of time to think, right? And you have lots of time to listen to audiobooks and YouTube videos and read things in groups. And basically what I came to was my original diagnosis was post-traumatic stress. It was absolutely normal for what I went through. If I look at my context of what was happening in my life when I got that diagnosis, the way I reacted was absolutely normal. I think all of us, like, I coach people and I hear their stories, and everyone tells me their origin story of like how they got on meds. And I have never met one person who did not have like a normal human stress that they were going through. I was in a bad marriage. I was in Jehovah's Witnesses and it was too much pressure. Or I left for college and I was lonely and scared. So I think what happens is we're vulnerable, we're scared, we exceed our capacity to cope with our life circumstance. And that's a very vulnerable position. That's how we get put on medications. We are sincerely seeking some relief and some help and some hope. And that's kind of how all of us landed here where we are. So I do invite you to like look into diagnosis, look into like where the DSM-5 came from, what it actually does and what it can do and what it can't do. It's basically insurance codes. It can give you like a framework, but it's more of like an arrow, like we're just pointing at something. I know my diagnoses became my identity. I was the disgruntled veteran who was, freaked out and dependent on therapists and doctors and retreats and all the stuff. I was definitely all in. I was a patient 100%. I did not have a life that existed outside of that, really. It's pretty sad when I think about it. I also re-examined my past. Like, why did I make these certain decisions? I will tell you, part of the withdrawal experience is, as you come out of it, you will start to think about things differently. Like, wait a minute, for instance, why did I buy a house with my mom? What was I thinking? That is not a good decision. She has a long track record of leaving places. What were you thinking? Why did you cry that much when you had to get rent and you couldn't come up with the money? Why did you do that? All these things start to get pieced together. And I'm like, oh my God, like I did not even understand the impact of the medications until I was completely off of everything. And my brain started to clear. And I started to think about all my past decisions and just the last 13 years. Like, why did I get a divorce? Why did I not make friends for 10 years? Why was I not dating? I thought it was my post-traumatic stress disorder. Nope, turns out it was medication side effects. So just know that your mind will bring you some of those ideas and you will rethink them, and it's totally normal. And if anything, it kind of helps you repair your past without even having a therapist. Like, it will come when it needs to come. So just kind of like trust it and let it come. And obviously there's lots of people in the community you can talk to about that, or if you need to get a therapist, go for it, but things will become more clear. Another thing before I move on is I see a lot of people that say, I could never complete a task. I couldn't finish college. I would set goals and I couldn't do it. I couldn't lose weight, like things like that. Like, it very much, all those years of medication very much stunted my growth. It derailed me from my potential. It, what's the word? Like, I really think of it like it kicked the can down the road. Like, I could never really heal until I was off of everything and really clear thinking and putting things back together. And it kind of robbed me of my healing experience that I should have had 20 years ago. You will also re-examine friendships that you have, people that you count on. I know I did a recent video of this on YouTube about losing friends and family and withdrawal. We try to teach them and listen to me, and you got to hear this and read this article and watch this movie. And usually that kind of pushes people away. And you'll find out who your real friends are. It's pretty tough. I know I lost a lot of friends. Family members didn't understand. I've even had family members make fun of me. It was extremely hurtful. They still don't get it. It's just like, I don't even talk to them anymore. You know, it's kind of collateral damage from this experience. You also rethink your relationships just with, you know, your family, your caregiver, your spouse. I always say when I see married couples, it's actually kind of a beautiful thing that I get to witness. I always say this withdrawal experience will either bring you closer together or take you apart. It's kind of up to you. And just know that this experience is extremely hard on caregivers, extremely hard. I know that BWC has a caregiver support group. I have a caregiver support group. It's super tough on them. They're going through it right along with you. Burnout is very high. It's been very rare that I've actually seen a caregiver leave someone, but it is hard. They need support too. So if you have a caregiver, please look at some of these groups to help them too. Also, spirituality. I know I'm kind of big on spirituality. I don't talk about it much one-on-one with people. I don't think I've been very public about it either, but definitely this experience brought me to my knees. And I thought, like, why is God abandoning me? Why isn't he healing me right now, overnight? It was real tough with that. So I highly suggest you read, like, you know, there's like prayer books, there's reflection books, there's affirmation books, things like that. I really had to anchor on only loving thoughts are true. That was my mantra. So anything fearful or scary, or like the thoughts like, I'm going to die, I'm not going to heal from this. Like I could not, obviously they were there for many years, you know, but I'd have to force, like, part of my spirituality was only loving thoughts are true. God is love. The universe is love. That is what I have to like hold on to above all else. When the scary thoughts come in, they're going to torture me. I know that, but like deep down, I have to know that those are not real. This is withdrawal. These are this is all drug related. God did not do it. I'm not being punished. I didn't do anything wrong. And I got to hang on to, you know, love heals me. It will get me to the end. So at this point, I was about 3 years off. And I don't know if some of you have seen Medicating Normal. I know lots of people in our community are scared to watch it. Maybe you guys in the comments can say, if you've watched it, was it scary? Because I swear it's not scary. It's actually hopeful. And even me talking to you now, you'll see me 7 years ago. It's a totally different person. So don't be scared. But part of my healing, I think, was participating in the film. And what I mean by that was, what happened was the filmmakers found me when I was about 10 months off. I was actually an admin of a benzo group on Facebook, and I was just helping people. And I kid you not, I'm typing out to you guys in the Facebook groups, you will heal. And as I'm typing that, I'm thinking to myself, they're going to heal, but I won't, because I took too many meds. I was on too long. I took too many this and that, and I went to war and blah, 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 all the things. So they found me in one of the groups. They flew to St. Louis to talk to me. I told them part of my story. I did not tell them about the suicidal thoughts, the scary thoughts that I was experiencing. I didn't tell them anything about that. I could barely walk when it happened. And she's like, Angie, you have to tell your story. If you don't tell it, who's going to tell it? And I was like, I don't know, but I don't want to be in a film about it. You know, I wasn't sure I was going to live, you know, but basically they talked me into it. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I can't kill myself now because I'm going to be in a movie and I don't want them to film me. And at the end of the movie, they say, oh, Angela Peacock was a great person, but she ended it, you know? So I was like, no. So it was actually kind of a bittersweet thing that I was a subject of the film. So they came and recorded me every 6 months, cameras in my living room, could barely talk to them, could barely walk, could barely get out of bed. They're asking me to do things like walk down the street. We need to film you walking down the street. And I'm like, I can't walk, you know, like, why don't you cook a meal? I'm like, I can't follow a recipe right now. I'm totally brain dead, you know? It was real tough, that video recording and all that. But through that experience, it did keep me going, because they'd say, we interviewed a lot of people. Like, we interviewed Bob Whitaker. He said, you're going to healing, and just hang in there. We talked to Peter Gertcha. He's a scientist from Europe. He said, you're going to you'll heal, hang in there. Come on, you can keep going. And then they'd scheduled the next recording. I'm like, okay, I just got to make it 6 months. So that really kept me going and kept me engaged. So kind of with the suffering well thing, the way I look at it now is like, these things kept me busy. They kept me focused. They kept me looking at healing and a macro side. keep my sights on, like, I got to make it till this film comes out. Now, obviously you guys are not in films, but is there something in your life that can keep you going? Like, is your daughter going to get married in 4 years? Or is your granddaughter going to graduate in college? Like, something that is kind of projected in the future that will keep you going. And until then, you just have to stay really busy. That was very helpful to me. I also did lots of advocacy, and I'll tell you what, like that picture on the left, that's a senator from California, Senator Takano. I told him all about the benzo problem. I talked about polypharmacy. I was shaking. I was sweating. I had a migraine the day before trying to get copies. It was not good. Like, I know it's so deceiving. Withdrawal, everybody looks normal and you sound normal, and on the inside, you're in the twilight zone. Okay. I was in the twilight zone doing all this stuff. I had tons of symptoms. I did not feel good. I think, I know this is hard to understand, but some people, your symptoms are so bad, you cannot move or sit or walk or anything. My symptoms felt so bad, I have to do something constantly. I had to stay busy constantly. I felt like I was like losing my grip on reality. And I was like, I just got to do what I got to do. I got to be around people constantly. Otherwise I'm going to lose it. And I mean, I would be walking down Capitol Hill steps, like I'm going to fall down these steps, like severe, in the bathroom crying in between a meeting or something, right? It was bad. But I really do think it helped me pass the time. It helped me get through. It got me to where I'm at today. Then the film came out. I was about 4 years off when the film came out. I toured with the film in an RV. People cannot believe that. I could barely drive. I remember I left St. Louis. I got to Tulsa. I called a friend in Withdrawal that I was going to go visit and sleep in front of her house. I was crying hysterically. I stopped at a gas station. I said, I can't drive anymore. I'm totally freaked out. Do you think the police are going to come and kick me out of this parking lot? And she's like, no, Ange, just stay there. Just lay down. You'll be fine. Just go rest in the back of the RV. You'll be fine. And I mean, RVs, let's just be real. RVs are like the perfect withdrawal vehicle because you have a bathroom, a bed, a fridge, you got everything you need, and nobody knows what's going on in there, So it was perfect. But I started touring in the van with the film. I would visit cities and do small screenings, like 20 or 30 people sometimes. We'd have discussions about withdrawal. People would stand up and tell me their stories. If you look at the middle picture, that's actually the as prescribed film part. This is the hearing from Massachusetts. I had flown out and done some testimony with them. I helped a couple of those people with their testimonies. On the far right is Lisa Ling. She did the Benzo episode. I helped consult on that episode. In the middle, this is MISSD, MISSD. She's the founder of that organization. Her husband died from drug-induced akathisia. It was really sad. And then Peter Gertrude's on the left. So all that time, I was out of my mind, guys, like you wouldn't believe. But all this to say, like, it kept me going. It actually helped me make meaning of my experience. It helped other people heal, even though I didn't feel good. But you don't have to do any of this. You guys, if you just breathe and stay alive and make it through this, and you leave the community and you never write a success story and you never come back, good for you. Please do. My point is, do what you have to do to get through it. That's what I want you to do. All right. So then this is the thing you all face. And I hear it more often than not. And I think we don't talk about it enough within the community because, most of this is crisis related, acute withdrawal, tapering stuff. We don't really get to the other side of the chatting part of it. Like, what happens when most of your withdrawal symptoms are resolved? What happens when you start to rebuild your life? That's kind of where I'm going now. So there is definitely a process to that. I hear a lot of people, and it's maybe not everybody, and maybe some need more help with it and some don't, but I definitely hear it, especially like a middle-aged women, menopausal age. They're like, Ange, I've been on meds for 30 years. I don't even know who I am. I was a mom. My kids are gone. I'm off the meds now. Who am I? I don't know how I'm going to spend the rest of my life. I don't know where I'm going to be next year. I don't know how to think about, like, how do you build an identity when your identity was numbed and you couldn't feel yourself and you didn't really have a personality for a couple of years because you were suffering so bad? Who is this new person emerging? What's important to me? All of these questions could come up for you. So through my process, I tried lots of things, guys, lots of things. When it started, it was not this, okay? When I started, it was going to vintage shops. It was literally walking around trying to let my eyes focus on objects. Like I really rebuilt my brain from the bottom up. I couldn't walk more than like a mile a year ago. Seriously. I would stop and turn around and go back. Now I'm like walking 6, 8, 10 miles. You know, it's a very gradual process that you can build. But I want to say this, and I really mean it when I say this. I'm being completely sincere. You have the opportunity to do whatever you want after this. And I'm not mincing words. I'm not being woo-woo. I'm being 100% serious. This experience has a way of just dropping an atom bomb on your life, dismantling everything that you think you know, and you can rebuild something beautiful out of that. And even, listen, like I said, if you just breathe and you stay alive, even then something will emerge. You will get gifts from this. You will look at life differently. Things will be different going here for too, from here on out. Things do change. This picture on the right was just me 2 days ago, hanging off a 40-foot cliff, which I couldn't even look at a picture of a cliff a couple of years ago. All right, so another big theme in our community is healing from trauma. Everybody's like, I'm traumatized by this. Now I have PTSD. I hear it all the time. It definitely feels like PTSD on steroids. That's what withdrawal feels like. So if you're feeling that right now, that's what it is. Your limbic system of your brain is on fire. All those GABA receptors are burned out. There's nothing there to slow it down. All that glutamate has upregulated. Everything is on fire. Everything is scary. Everything is the worst case scenario. It's going to be permanent for you. The clouds are scary. The coffee cups are scary. Everything is scary. Everything. And you feel traumatized, and it is traumatizing. So I definitely want to tell you what you are experiencing right now. Unfortunately, not normal, but it is normal and common for the withdrawal experience that's what it feels like, extreme PTSD. I want to tell you that most of that feeling will dissolve and it will go away, and it may linger, and it's okay. You will get through it. It also will give you a perspective on your previous traumas. My own therapist told me, you're going to have to go back and do therapy again on all your past traumas when this is over. I did not have to do that. I did not. I do not have war dreams. I do not think about bombs. I don't think about Iraq. I don't think about my sexual assault that happened to me. I don't think about any of that. I definitely was haunted for a couple of years about the medical experience. I definitely have a mistrust of doctors now. I definitely am still working through some of those fears. I definitely speak louder and louder about this though. And I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm not here to convince you. I know what happened to me, and I know I will not put another drug in my body without full informed consent. And it better be life and death before I do something pretty serious or drug related. But again, that's in conjunction with how severe my case was, and I don't want to go anywhere near that kind of stuff ever again. But it does give you perspective on your past issues, on your diagnosis, maybe on ways that you cope going forward. So I just want to tell you that, like, there was even a period of time where I thought, I'm gonna have to sit down with a therapist and like talk about this withdrawal experience. And I did talk about it with friends, but in general, no, I did not have to do that. I did not have to like, let me tell you every detail of my withdrawal and help me figure it out. With that, I want to, I guess I deleted that part, but I had originally had the words in here, neuroemotion and therapy. And what I want to say about that is, like, everyone in the community, if you're pretty, if you're having withdrawal symptoms, you have a lot of neuroemotion going on. And what that means is, like, maybe, for instance, your daughter won't text you back. And you're like, oh my God, my daughter doesn't love me. I'm a burden to the family. Everybody's going to leave me. I'm going to end up homeless. Nobody's going to help me through withdrawal. That's what your brain is going to do. There's a sliver of truth to what happened. Yes, your daughter did not text you back, but it does not mean all the extra things, right? So all that neuroemotion that's going on, all those side effects, all your withdrawal symptoms, to go do therapy on that, to me, is counterproductive, because what are you really doing therapy on? You're doing therapy on a neurological dysregulation that's not even under your control. It doesn't resolve anything. And that's not to say don't go talk to someone. Absolutely. Talk to coaches, talk to a therapist if you want to, if they're informed. I just see a lot of harm in the community when people think they need to do a bunch of therapy on what they're feeling, because it's like, I don't know, this isn't trauma. I mean, this isn't like, you didn't like have a car accident where you can talk about it and it gets resolved and it's put in a nice little package and it's put back in your brain and you're happy and you move on. It's a long journey, and it's a lot of emotional confusion and a lot of things that are all over the place that don't necessarily resolve right away. So just be careful, get informed consent with that too. There is modalities like EMDR, EFT, TRE is trauma release exercises, yoga, acupuncture, safe and sound protocol. I tried EMDR, it didn't do nothing for me. It made me worse. Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube definitely helped me. So the way I like to think about withdrawal is, especially benzo withdrawal, is your nervous system is in a hypersensitive state. So do things that are calming. That will help calm some of it down. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works 1%. Sometimes it just helps pass the time. But I would say stick to those kind of therapies that are more calming to the nervous system. Prolonged exposure therapy is like, go into your trauma and go sit in a hospital and let them show you syringes. You don't want to do that like right now, don't do that. So that's kind of what I want to say about that. All right. So then I want to talk about victim identity, survivor identity, thriver identity. Really just, we're talking about identity here. I want you to know you have every right to feel like a victim, to feel like this should have never happened to you. They ruined your brain. They're not going to help you get out of it. Stay there. Feel all those feelings. Let it be what it is, because you absolutely are a victim. Okay. Then there's survivor identity, warrior identity. Like, I just got to get through this. I can do this. Look at me. I'm a benzo warrior. I'm that, Then there's thriver identity. Like, I'm living a good life. It's the stages, whatever you want to say. I don't even like hanging on to any identity. I don't know who I am. I don't want to know. Like, I want to keep exploring and experiencing life and let it go. So really, that ends with get busy living. Like, as you come out of the experience, definitely tiptoe back into life very slowly, but there will come a point when you're like, you're off to the races. You're living life like me. You're trying new things. You're not fearful anymore. If somebody invites you on an airplane, you take off, So that's kind of, I just don't want you guys to stay angry. I definitely felt like, well, I should say, people ask me like, aren't you angry about what happened to you? Or are you mad at your psychiatrist? And I'm like, I don't have time to be angry. Like, I'm doing stuff. I don't want to give them one more minute of my time. I suffered for many years. I'm over it. Like, I need to move on and get going, So that's what I mean by that. Like, definitely it's a process. Take your time. Don't rush yourself. I want you to feel all your feelings as you come out of the experience, as you're going through the experience. Talk about it with trusted people. Don't re-traumatize yourself with people that don't get it. Don't push people away by pushing the agenda too much, but move through all of these stages. All right. So a word about holistic health. This experience, like I said earlier, will take you to your knees and make you rethink everything that you think you know about everything. That includes tap water, Tupperware, beauty products, makeup, getting your hair dyed, getting your nails done, everything. Like, some of us go off the deep end with it. Okay. I definitely was somebody who went off the deep end. I've come back to reality somewhat, but I do live a pretty radical life. I live in an RV. I travel, I hike, I'm in nature constantly. I sit outside most of the day. I eat as clean as I possibly can. I'm not perfect. Today I ate gyros. They were delicious. And tomorrow I will not eat any bread, that kind of thing. Movement has been super important to me. And what I'm saying all of this for is that I want you all to have a good life after this is over, and you deserve a good life. And I don't want you to be constantly taking trips to the hospitals. I've seen people develop diabetes and withdrawal because they ate like crap. I've seen people, I'm not saying that your diet will heal you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your body is going through a rebalancing time. You need to support it as much as you can. You're not perfect. I definitely wasn't. There was years I ate cake for a whole year. I just didn't care. Year 4, I was like, I don't want to do any therapy. I don't want anybody telling me what's wrong with me. I'm not doing nothing healing related, So I think I'm inviting you to take this experience to think about, how will I live a healthy life? What can I do? What would be helpful to my body? What do I feel like I need? It's different for everybody. So just think about community. You have one here. This is step 1. You're going to need your community to get through this. I definitely recommend healing buddies. Find somebody that you can relate to get you through this. I had tons of friends from the community. We talk all the time. Just, how you doing today? Oh, I got this horrible symptom. Okay, keep going. Do that kind of thing. Think about your nutrition. Get in nature, even if it means sitting on your front porch with your feet in the grass, and you do that for 2 minutes. Try to get some nature in there. Try to get movement. People say I'm in bed. I'm like, that's okay. Take your cell phone, because I know you're scrolling on Benzo Warrior Community, and just do a couple arm raises if you can, or just, tilt your head to the side or to the left and the right, just a little movement. Meaning, identity, and purpose going forward. That's a big one. What did this experience mean to you? you know, who are you now? I think I have a slide about that next, but what do you want to do with this experience going forward? And then radical health. I'm just a big fan of that. I want to feel good. I want to live a good life. I deserve it. I have suffered enough. I'm done with it. I got to live on my terms and get through this and go forward and live a good life. That is what I want. So life after withdrawal. Again, who are you now? Do you identify as a person like me? I was like, I'm not a patient with post-traumatic stress anymore. I am a person who loves adventure. I love to be outside. I love good people. I love witnessing other people's healing. I had to tiptoe back into each one of these things and let it unfold how it was gonna, rethink about, you know, how do I want to go forward? What am I going to do with this? How will life be different now? For instance, I thought I can't trust doctors the way I did before. I mean, I was the person that anytime I had an ache or a pain, I was at the doctor's office. I don't do that anymore. I definitely get checked up and I definitely go when I need to. And I recommend everybody go get checked out. I was getting myself checked like every 6 months to a year in withdrawal just for reassurance. The next question is a big one. How will you cope with distress going forward? I can remember in year 5, my dog died and it was a service dog. He's the one that helped me get through all this, helped me get off the meds, helped me go back to school. And it crushed me. It threw me into like a year wave. It was horrible. It was the worst stress I've ever had. But I'm telling you, I got through that experience with my friends. I did not run to a doctor, but I really did think this is why people take Ativan. This is why, because it's such an extreme experience. The grief I felt was so hard. And I would lay around and cry and let it be there. I went toward my symptoms. I didn't run away from them. I was no longer afraid of them. If I had a panic attack, I would run in the bathroom and have the panic attack. There was no running away from it. So this definitely changed my whole perspective on what mental health means. Where do you go for help? Who do you talk to about that? What do you do about it? No longer am I running to the doctor and getting pills. I can't. That's not even an option for me if I wanted to. So what am I going to do with that? I tell everybody, you have your own magic potion. You got to try lots of stuff. All the stuff that you try in withdrawal, guided meditation, the breathing techniques, the yoga, the Tai Chi, the movement, whatever you're doing, grounding, if you're sitting in the grass, all that stuff is rewiring your nervous system while you're healing. It's going to become a habit. It's going to be, you're not going to have to work so hard for it anymore. My sleep is perfect. I have never slept so good in my entire life. And it was all because of those things that I had to do in withdrawal just to get through it, that eventually rewired things. And now it's like perfect. Oh my God, I can't wait to go to sleep tonight. I love sleep. It's amazing. I used to be afraid of it. All right. So what meaning did you make from your experiences? For me, I think I thought like this happened because I trusted other people to heal me. And it doesn't work like that. This happened to me because I didn't ask questions. That's not to say I'm blaming myself. It's to say that maybe I had a tiny little bit of responsibility in it. My doctors were also victims. In a way, we're all victims from the bad research out there and the fact that they don't measure multiple drugs over multiple years in combination. You know, our brains are sensitive. We don't give them the respect that they deserve. So that's kind of the meaning I took out of it. Also, like, I was scared. I was just scared. And I didn't know where to go for help. And I went to the place that I was socialized to go to. My dad went to a psychiatrist. He's still on meds. That's what I did, because that's what I thought you're supposed to do. With that, what are the forces that collided that caused this to happen? So again, I was fearful. I was coming out of a trauma. I was vulnerable. I went to psychiatry because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. You know, just think about that with your own life. Like, what happened that led me here, and how can I heal from it, and how can I move forward and perhaps live differently? Where else would I go if I have distress? And then lastly, how do you grieve and live on? It's definitely a grieving process. I'm telling you, when you start to feel better, when you start to come out of the withdrawal symptoms, maybe when you end your taper and you heal at the bottom of your taper, but you have some lingering symptoms, you definitely grieve those lost years. For me, it was 20 years total, from the time I got put on meds to coming off the meds to healing from the meds. And one of my friends, Michelle Fox, she's about 8 years off. She said, Angie, don't you get it? You're coming out of a coma. You've been in a coma for 20 years. And I was like, oh my God, she's right. You know, I thought these lingering things were me still. And she's like, no, you still have a couple little tiny symptoms. Like they're still going to go. But it was a 20-year process for me from start to finish. And I think about, I lost my 20s. I lost the chance to have a meaningful relationship and maybe have children. I lost, retirement, 20 years of, I have 0 retirement funds. I lost, buying a house, all these things that we don't get to do. But again, I can't stay angry about that. I felt that. I went through my process with it. I talked to who I had to talk to about it. And now it's like, okay, I can't change what happened to me. I'm not going to let it keep me bitter and angry. I got to live a good life. We can start retirement funds now. I mean, I got to do what I got to do. All right. So this is my favorite saying. I found this in Withdrawal, memento mori. And it means it's a reminder to live and live as well as you can. And what I think about that is this experience is hell. That's not an understatement for many of us. And when you come out of it, there are gifts at the end. And one of the gifts for me has been, I am in the present moment almost all the time. And I am enjoying every little thing that I have. And when you guys start to wake up, I hear clients say it all the time. And I'm just so happy for them. I had one last week. I said, have you had those little winks yet? Where you get these little healing feelings? And she's like, oh yeah. She goes, I sat in the grass the other day and I just stared at the dew and I could just cry. It was so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, that's the healing. It starts coming and it comes more and you see it more. And it's just that much more beautiful because you have suffered so deeply. I also think that about my own life now, because my experience was so severe and for so many years and my symptoms were so severe that I know what deep suffering feels like, which also gives me a great capacity for deep love. I love I've never loved before. I appreciate things that I never thought were significant before. I value a good cup of coffee, I just sit there and just look at the way that they shape the heart and the top of my latte. And I'm just do you know how hard I work to drink a latte? 10 years with no caffeine. So I just want you to know that is at the end of this experience, that you will have gifts that you did not expect. You will never look at your granddaughter smile the same way or touch your husband's hand the same way or cry at a funeral the same way. You will get gifts from this that you did not expect. And I love this quote. I just heard it about a month ago. It was, nature heals, just don't interfere. And to me, that means your body is healing. Don't mess up the process. There's not really a whole lot of ways you can mess it up, but things look at the Benzo Information Coalition's website. They have a list of supplements to avoid, don't drink alcohol, but your brain is interconnected. Think of a Rubik's Cube. It's this beautiful thing. It's all connected in different ways. And it's just sitting there just okay, let's go this way, let's go that way. And as one system improves, then another system has to improve. Another system has to improve. It's this beautiful quantum physics, sacred geometry thing that's going on. Okay. So just let it happen. It's going to happen. There's not a whole lot of things you can do to speed it up that I am aware of. If there was something out there, we would have found it by now. There would not be a Benzo Warrior Community. Everybody here would be healed. You would not be listening to me. So in the meantime, leave it alone. Let your body heal. It's a beautiful, perfect machine. You were engineered that way and it will happen. That's my chat. I think I did about 48 minutes. You can get a hold of me through my website, angiepeacock.com, or I have my RV travel stories that's separate from my withdrawal, but lots of people in the community watch it for inspiration. It's at Being Human RV on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And that's all I got. Thank you so much for listening.
Angie, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming here to talk to us. Thank you for all the great work that you did with Medicating Normal. Thank you for telling your story, because I mean, it's just incredibly brave to be so public with your story, and all of us have benefited from it tremendously. I think I know on that last slide, you showed people how to contact you in case they want to contact you as a coach, but maybe put that information in the chat too, so that people can see it. And again, just thank you. Thank you for being here on behalf of all of us.
You're welcome.